Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here and thanks for checking out my podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell for new episodes. You can also find Shine Without Shame on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Welcome to the Shine Without Shame podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Walters. I'm a certified life and health coach, and I started this podcast to explore the concept of shame, how to work through it, as well as how to thrive and succeed in life without feeling bad about that. If you like this episode or any others, please give a positive rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you. Today, I'm going to spend some time answering questions that I've received from the audience. There are a few questions. I'm going to give my answers, share my insights, my observations, experiences, and hopefully this will be useful. So here we go with the first question.
Hey Tiffany, my question is if you deal with stress and anxiety and how you manage that on a daily basis, like if you have any tips or tricks, I'd love to know. Thank you.
Stress and anxiety is a real thing for most humans on the planet, whether you feel it on a daily basis or you feel it intensely at different moments and with different experiences. I don't think anybody can get away from experiencing stress or anxiety. Stress can be about many different things in life. So when I think of stress, I think of physical stress on the body. Maybe someone's doing physical work and they're stressing their muscles or putting stress on different parts of their body or even their mind. And of course, stress comes about when we're dealing with emotional challenges, a situation that causes us to worry or to be fearful about how to deal with the situation or not knowing how it's going to end. And of course, just living in modern society with traffic and emails, having to run here and there to take care of daily tasks. It's a lot. And I don't think there's any surprise that for many of us on the planet, we're only getting busier. And I do wonder what that's about. And I'll explore a little bit of that by answering this question. Starting from the top, I think having some sort of daily practice, routine, habit that we create is what we can rely on to get us through the anxiety and the stress that we're going to face, in different degrees in our daily lives. And a daily routine doesn't have to look exactly the same each day. If you have a practice already, then you'll know that whatever you do, sometimes you do keep the practice the same because it's comfortable. You can rely on knowing what the experience will be like, but it's also okay to switch it up, especially given different challenges that arise. I think that whatever you want to incorporate into your daily practice for self-care, self-reflection, make it simple, make it something that is easy to begin or easy to accomplish. For some people, this is journaling every day, doing yoga, taking meditative walks, being in nature, saying prayers, reading inspiring writings, and meditation. I find that meditation can be very powerful. So I know that there are so many different approaches to meditation, different names people call meditation practices, but I'm even thinking something as simple as breathing meditations. And there's one that I like that seems to work well for myself. I know I've shared it with clients, and this is called the 4-7-8 breath. The idea is that you are breathing in to the count of 4. Doesn't have to be to the full capacity of your lungs, but as far or as deep as you can breathe while counting to 4. And then you hold your breath for 7 seconds. And then you exhale out for 8 seconds. So again, it's 4-7-8. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8 counts. Now, I first and foremost recommend doing this seated, especially the first few times, because if you're not used to having a lot of oxygen coming into your lungs or deep breathing, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes, not always, but for some people. So I recommend, especially if it's the first time, sitting down. And as time goes on and you practice more, you may not need to sit down. You could be standing up at work. You could be at the grocery store, and you can use this technique. You can be driving. But start off sitting down and go through a few cycles. If 4-7-8 is too intense, then I would start with something even simpler like 3-3-3. So breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3, exhale for 3. Don't judge yourself. Just do what you can, do what feels comfortable. And again, this is a great way to relax. And it does calm the nervous system. It does lower the blood pressure. And it helps, I know in my experience when I do this, it helps me to get centered, get present, and face whatever I need to face. And again, you can do this, especially as you practice it more and more, you can do this anywhere. You can do this in the middle of a challenging conversation. Obviously you don't maybe want to make it obvious, but you can, as you do this more, you can find ways to subtly incorporate this into daily life and see how that works for you. So I think that's, of anything that I listed or mentioned, journaling, prayer, yoga, walking meditations, being in nature, reading sacred writings, meditating, this breathing meditation is short and sweet, and it can get you grounded and get you centered very quickly. Something else I want to offer is, and I believe I've said this elsewhere, either on the podcast or maybe in a short video that I posted on social media, I find this to be an incredible way to begin my day, empowering, and gets me focused very quickly, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter how much sleep I got, whether it was a little or a lot. And it's waking up, and while you're still lying down, take 1 or 2 minutes to reflect on a quality, a virtue that you want to focus on that day. So it could be the quality of justice, patience, kindness, wisdom, confidence, assertiveness, friendliness, honesty, truthfulness, creativity. Whatever the virtue is, whatever that quality is that you want to choose that day. And it can just be something that comes to you in the moment, or maybe it's something you've been thinking that you want to focus on. Whatever it is, before you get up, before you reach for your phone or whatever device you have near you, or before you start to worry or go through your list of what you need to do or what need your attention, try doing this first. Thinking of a quality, saying it either out loud or silently to yourself, but thinking about how you want to incorporate this into your life. Maybe just start to visualize yourself, your future self, hours later out in the world, practicing patience or kindness or confidence, and see how that affects your day, how it influences and affects your attitude, your decisions, your interactions, your communication. I find this to be one of the most important things I do, in addition to then doing some morning prayers and meditation. And also for anyone who already has a prayer life, or if you're considering it, I do want to offer this idea, and it is something that I've explored throughout my spiritual journey. And it's the idea that we don't have to always pray intensely. In other words, sometimes I know especially if you have a collection of prayers that you read from or recite, maybe some people who are listening, maybe you don't have a collection, maybe you just spontaneously improv a prayer, which is completely appropriate and fine. But for especially anyone who has a collection that they read from, I've learned that sometimes I feel like, oh, I've got to do it. Here it comes. Here's my morning prayer, my evening prayer. But especially in the morning, I noticed over the years, I would feel like I needed to sit and read a really long prayer, or that I had to put a certain kind of energy into it. And I'll be clear, I'm not saying that there isn't a need to say maybe a longer prayer some days or some moments. Of course there is, depending on what you're focused on, where you're at, the kind of support you need. But even a shorter prayer or prayers said with a pure heart, said with pure motives, said with pure intentions and an openness are just as powerful, especially if we're focused on being in the moment. That's what I find. And then there are days where I'm just ready to settle in. I have actually more time to settle in for longer prayer time, or I just feel I need it and I go with that. I'm simply offering the idea that it doesn't always have to feel like we're going in for a major intense uh, practice, just because maybe that's what we've always thought we had to do. Again, I want to make it clear that there are times, of course, where it's just what's needed. You need to go in on a longer, harder prayer time, but sometimes that's not what's needed, or we just maybe sometimes have to step back and look at how we approach prayer and our beliefs around what prayer is, what it means. And so I would just offer that having an open heart, having pure motives and intentions, that is what will get us where we need to go with our prayers and our meditation. So just wanted to offer that as an idea to consider. And I think, again, dealing with stress and anxiety, there are so many factors, even health, that bring on stress and anxiety. So there's physical, there's emotional, and there can even be a spiritual component. When I mean spiritual, is just grappling with decisions, moral decisions, making the right decision being authentic and knowing that we're not perfect, but doing our best to be authentic in every moment. And that sometimes that we're all human, so that's going to be challenging. I know I experience challenges and thinking about, okay, what is best in this moment? Sometimes you have a lot of time to reflect, or sometimes you need to make a decision. And sometimes you can feel a little anxious about that. But I'm really the believer of the idea of this daily routine, this habit, this practice of turning to things that inspire us, that keep us mindful, that keep our hearts open, and that keep us in a place of believing that we and knowing that we are capable. We are capable of making our contributions and capable of offering something worthy in our everyday lives. And I'll end my answer to this question there. Here is the next question.
Hi, Tiffany. What qualities do I look for in finding a genuine friend?
I like this question. This may seem like a simple and straightforward question because we've all experienced friendships on some level of life. I mean, whether we've had one or two or even just one friend in our lives, if we think back to being children, maybe we've had many friends over the years. We all know friends come and go. We come and go from people's lives too. But each of us can at least relate to the idea of having a friend or being a friend. And when I think about what to look for in a genuine friend, there are a few key guiding principles that I believe are important. First and foremost, we want to recognize people who hold themselves accountable. So we can ask questions such as, do they take responsibility for their choices, the big choices and the small choices? Are they able to admit their mistakes or their missteps? Or do they avoid facing them? Which requires the quality of humility, among other qualities. This took me many years to understand why accountability was important to me in friendships and in relationships of any kind, romantic, professional. I certainly am not perfect, never have been, never will be, but since I was young, I think I've had a strong desire to be accountable, or at least to deal with conflicts, deal with issues that arise when I felt it was appropriate and when it was timely. There are some times when I haven't felt it was appropriate or timely to address a conflict or address an issue, but for many reasons, and I can talk about that at another time, and I have spoken about that a few times on the podcast. But I know that for me, accountability means so much to me. Accountability doesn't mean that we're perfect and that we won't make mistakes. We will make mistakes. But when we're not able to address those mistakes, then it's so challenging to create trust and rely on someone. And of course, this is a mutual thing. So we do need to look for people who are accountable, who take responsibility, so that we can foster trust, respect in the relationship and the friendship. And we too, in turn, need to be accountable for all of our decisions And accountable doesn't mean you have to answer necessarily for those decisions, but maybe just be ready to answer, or just know that you're okay with answering for the decisions you've made. And this is not about making bad decisions all the time. We can be accountable for the good decisions we make, for the decisions that are based on truth and honesty, where we use our integrity. So this, to me, is what makes a genuine friendship or a relationship of any kind, as I mentioned earlier, the idea of accountability. Because that is what allows us to trust and to be cooperative. That fosters a relationship or friendship built on sincerity, built on truth. So this leads us to the idea of mutuality. That is what mutuality is as a quality of virtue. It's about cooperation. It's about trust and truth and being sincere at all times, even if we are making mistakes, or even when we do make mistakes. Without accountability, it's not an equal relationship. If one person is accountable and another isn't, then that relationship, friendship, is not based on equality. So I think the better we get at understanding how to be accountable ourselves, then we will know what to look for in other people. And then we can have expectations about what a genuine, healthy, equal, mutual friendship or relationship looks like. And again, this applies to any kind of relationship. We can look for these qualities. And again, we're going to make mistakes. Other people will make mistakes. But when we hold ourselves accountable, then we can address that and we can move forward. When both people are accountable in a relationship, you can move forward. Don't have to be stuck. And this is easier said than done. There are many complex factors and experiences that go into friendships and relationships. And of course, sometimes those relationships don't last, and that can be painful and sad. But it can be okay at the same time, especially if there wasn't this mutuality and the respect and the equality and the trust and the truthfulness. As painful as it can be, or as sad as it can be to let go, whether it's one person letting go or both letting go, even if it's not something that's explicitly said, but naturally happens, then that can sometimes be what's best. And people do grow and change, and sometimes they reconnect down the road. Some of us have probably experienced that as well. So it's a journey. And these are the qualities that I think are most important for genuine friendships and relationships. And here is the last question.
Hey, Tiffany, I had a question for you. What are some ways that we can give ourselves more self-authority to help us with decision-making in daily life? Thanks, Tiffany.
Ooh, this is good. It's inevitable to escape authority in life. There are social, moral, legal, physical laws that govern life, that make up different aspects of authority that every single human lives by, or at least this authority governs our daily life. And the idea of self-authority is interesting, and this is something that I focus on in my practice, and I've talked about a little bit on the podcast, and I think it's worthy of more exploration. The idea of self-authority, in my words, is about the inner power and truth and qualities that we connect to, that are a part of our reality as a human being. And this truth and these qualities and these, even if one isn't religious, there are still moral laws and beliefs that many of us live our lives by each and every day. And even I think of the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done unto you. Again, I don't think that a person has to be religious to have that moral code that they live by. But whatever it is, whether it's religious teachings or laws or moral code or principles that we live by, it's also, again, our belief about who we are, what we're here to do, why we're even on planet Earth, and the qualities and the gifts and the talents that we have to offer. This awareness is important. This is about our internal life, which, of course, is influenced by and influences external life, the life around us, the world around us. But regardless of the authority that surrounds us every day as we walk or as we move through life, regardless of the authority that surrounds us every day as we move through life, we still need to turn inward to be clear about how we want to operate in the world, how we want to contribute, what our behavior is going to be. And when we have a sense of some greater value or principle, again, moral code, then that is what inspires us. Even in heavy, challenging moments, it's still something that we can turn to decide how we want to move forward in a given moment, a given situation, circumstance, believing that we can make good decisions, useful decisions, meaningful decisions, influential decisions, powerful decisions. Again, in whatever way, shape, or form this is in our daily lives, that is what, to me, self-authority is all about. And again, this doesn't require one to walk a religious path, although many people do. And there, in my mind, there's a universal idea of what's right, what's wrong. And that can be complicated, of course, as circumstances can be complicated. But however we want to approach life, whether it's, again, through a religious, spiritual lens or not, I believe we have to connect to something that's greater than us. Ideas, values, principles that are meaningful and that reflect the reality of being a human. And being a human is more than just our physical reality, but of course, we are on the planet every day. We are going to be facing many material, physical challenges, but it's about self-authority is about knowing that no matter what is required of us based on social laws or legal laws or moral codes, we still have to turn inward and find what we need to show up every day and to live our best lives. And that also is about honoring and acknowledging that we're noble beings and that we were created for a purpose, collectively and individually, and that our gifts and talents, our virtues, are going to be enough so that we can make a worthy contribution each and every day. That sounds so simple. Maybe that sounds very lofty. But I think that we can actually make this something that is very personal to us. It doesn't have to look like how the person next to us connects to their inner authority, to know what's best for a situation, to know what's best in handling a problem. But it's about each person going within, connecting to something that's greater than just surviving on Earth, something that's loftier or more noble than that. And again, at the very least, the golden rule, I think, is something that is nearly universal. I mean, the golden rule is a universal rule, a moral code, but I do believe that many people connect to it. And knowing that we each have what it takes to make decisions that are going to benefit us and benefit others can be assurance. But that does require us to start from the premise that we do have something worthy and valuable. So for some, maybe that's where the journey begins. Knowing that we do have something worthy and valuable inside of us to contribute. And maybe for some people, that's where the journey begins, is exploring what that means. What that means for you. What are my strengths? What are my qualities? Every time I show up in a certain situation, what do I always seem to bring to the table? And I think about this experience I had. I was visiting this really lovely place, like a retreat center, you could say. And I was visiting for a number of days. And I met many of the people who worked there, volunteered there, had conversations with them. And one person I was speaking with essentially told me that I needed to volunteer at this center. They said this in front of other people, and they were so adamant. And they said something like, well, in so many words, they said something like, well, if you know what's right, or if you really know what's best, or if you really are paying attention to your calling, then you'll know you need to volunteer here. And I'll be honest, I did not like that advice. It's not that there couldn't have been truth to it, but it's the way the person approached this conversation. They seemed to think that they knew me, that they knew my gifts, my talents, that they knew my personal, my deep, heartfelt desires and callings and inspirations. And this person didn't know me. They had been speaking to me for 15, 20 minutes. They didn't know anything about me except for maybe where I came from, where I was visiting from, where I lived. And I just thought, no, you don't know. I thought to myself, no, you don't know what's best for me. And I, in so many words, said that to this person while there were people around. I was kind, I was loving, but I was really firm. I was steadfast, and I was very confident in how I spoke to this person in that moment. And I said, well, I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to pray. I'm going to reflect on it. And I'll make the right decision for myself. And nobody has any business getting in the middle of my, I think I used the word, spiritual business. And I left it at that. I wasn't rude. I wasn't disrespectful, but I could not help but speak that truth to this person and in front of the other people who were in that space listening, because this person had the audacity to say this in front of other people. So I felt completely comfortable sharing my thoughts about how I did not agree and did not appreciate them stepping on my spiritual toes, if you will. All I mean is they were saying, well, if you pray hard enough about it, you'll be able to see that this is where you need to be and this is the decision. Oh no. That's not how it works when we're offering our thoughts and our insights with others. We should never presume to know what is best for someone and dictate how they come to a decision. That was interesting for me. That was many years ago. And I was still at the time working on embracing my self-authority. But in that moment, I didn't have to think hard about that one. I just knew, no, no, this doesn't work for me. And don't ever get in the middle of my business, my spiritual business, or my business like that again. So that's, to me, an example of self-authority. It doesn't have to look that way. That's just an example of how I exercised in that moment my self-authority. And again, I was respectful. I was as kind as I could be, but I was also firm. And in a way, I was setting a boundary, of course. There are so many experiences that each and every one of us have where we maybe don't or haven't felt like we have the authority to handle ourselves in a situation, right? Especially if there's the voice of authority that is taking up a lot of our space. And that could be any kind of voice of authority or authority figure. That could be when we're kids, our parents, our teachers, any adult in our lives that we are looking up to guide us and to teach us, all the way through our lives and careers when we're working with other professionals, or when we are contributing our ideas, or even something like a project or a recommendation in our community to help with our community building efforts, whatever arena or on whatever level we experience other voices of authority and other strong influences, we just don't want to forget that we too have a contribution. Now, okay, maybe there are some circumstances, like maybe someone's in jail or prison, and then our authority is quite limited in our daily lives and our activities. But even then, we don't lose our self-authority, even if there are major constraints put on our lives. We still have that authority and we can still foster it. And as circumstances change, then we can exercise it in new ways, right? It's like new or stronger muscles. But wherever we find ourselves, whatever moment or whatever environment or whatever circumstances, we still have to know that we are worthy of offering who we are and what we are and our contributions. And there are some times when decisions have already been made and maybe there is nothing we can do to change a situation. That doesn't mean, though, that we lose our authority. Maybe our authority in that moment or in that situation acknowledges, well, I might have done things differently. I actually don't agree with this, but I see that I can't make a contribution or I can't change a situation, but I maybe down the road won't connect again with these people or this situation or this circumstance, or if I do, I'm going to take a different approach. Right. I'm talking about like a dialogue that we have internally, but to be clear about even if something isn't just or isn't fair, and there isn't at the moment an opportunity to request justice or to change the course of circumstances, going inside of ourselves and saying, okay, no, this is not right. This is not fair. I would not want to contribute to this. I don't want to contribute to this, right? Maybe there are still opportunities, even when things seem like they're at a dead end, to make decisions and to step into our self-authority. But first and foremost, we just want to make sure we're connecting with ourselves, knowing that we are capable, we are worthy, we actually have enough. We have enough within us to either make a decision on our own, to reach out to someone we trust and respect to consult about how we might want to make a decision. Right? We have that authority. And even sometimes when you know something is happening that's not right, that's not fair, we need to know for ourselves, first and foremost, we need to be clear about what we know to be true. And that can always be our guiding light. And when we find new opportunities or opportunities down the road open up to maybe change a situation or request or claim justice, then if we're clear about what we believe to be true and just, then we can step forward. And then there are situations where we don't ever step forward for good reason, but we still know what's true. Internally, we still know what's true, what's right, what's just. And again, I find even if I don't know what decision to make or I'm not sure, gosh, this is a complicated situation. I don't know. I don't know what's true right now. I need to do more research. I need to explore. I need to to consult, then I do that. If the opportunity is there, I will find people, or even just one person who I trust, and I'll have a conversation with them. And even that is still using our authority, because we still can offer our thoughts and our opinions and show up being our noble selves and come to a conclusion or search for that truth, even with a friend or a partner or someone we trust. Self-authority is a big topic. I actually focus on this in my coaching practice, and it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart as an idea. And I think that it's worthy of our reflection and exploration. Thanks again for taking time to listen to Shine Without Shame. You can find episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I'm wishing everyone not just happiness in life, but I am wishing everyone those moments and those opportunities to live our lives based on being connected to who we are and what we are, what we have to offer, sharing that with others, allowing the people in our lives to celebrate us, and of course, celebrating those people. And then that will build the kind of momentum and the light that many of us are looking for in the world, that light of hope and that light of unity. We're all part of something by being here collectively on the planet. We're all contributing to something, and I believe we're contributing to the continuing advancement of our civilization. The idea that we are worthy and capable of contributing to an ever-advancing civilization is one that I hold dear. That's actually an idea that comes from the religious teachings that I hold dear, and I think it's an encouraging concept that we all can, no matter which path we walk, which religious tradition or not, but to think about and reflect on the idea that we're all contributing to our civilization's advancement. We each have something to offer. That could not be a sweeter or more hopeful idea in my mind. And I'm wishing you all much sweetness and much love and continued support on your journey. Take good care.